The morning sky turned red before anyone understood what was happening. Tom Reeves stood on his front porch, coffee cup frozen halfway to his mouth, watching as streaks of fire cut through the clouds above his Montana home. At first, he thought they were meteors, but 15 years in the military had taught him better. These were ships, and they were not friendly. His phone buzzed with emergency alerts just as the first explosions lit up the horizon. Major cities were being hit first: New York, London, Beijing, all going dark in a matter of minutes. But Tom knew the small town of Pine Ridge wouldn't be safe for long. These attacks were too organized, too precise to be random. He ran inside, grabbing his emergency bag and the old radio he kept from his army days. The power went out as he threw the bag into his truck. His neighbors were starting to come out of their houses, pointing at the sky and asking questions he couldn't answer. But when he saw Bill and Emma from next door standing with their young daughter, he knew he couldn't leave them behind. "Get in," he shouted, waving them over. "We need to move. Now." They had barely made it into his truck when the first hunter-killer pod crashed into the town center. It was sleek, metallic, and moved like nothing Tom had ever seen on Earth. The pod split open, and out stepped something that would haunt his nightmares: a tall, armored figure carrying what looked like a high-tech crossbow. Its helmet had multiple glowing sensors, scanning the area methodically. Tom kept his truck engine off, remembering his training about heat signatures. Through his rearview mirror, he watched in horror as another resident, old Mr. Parker, walked toward the alien with his hands raised in peace. The alien raised its weapon, and a holographic display appeared around Mr. Parker's body, like it was marking him. Then, without warning or mercy, it fired. The shot was silent, clean, and deadly. "Keep quiet," Tom whispered to his passengers. "They're hunting us." More pods were landing now, spread out in a pattern Tom recognized from military search and destroy missions. These weren't invaders looking to take over. They were hunters seeking sport. Each pod released one hunter, and each hunter moved with practiced precision, marking targets before taking them down. Tom waited until one of the hunters moved past their street, then slowly opened his door. "We need to get to the old mine," he said softly. "It's our best chance. The shaft goes deep, lots of tunnels. Might mask our heat signatures." They abandoned the truck, moving carefully through backyards and staying low. Tom led them using every bit of his training, watching the hunters' patterns. They seemed to follow strict rules. They never shot unmarked targets. They hunted alone, and they appeared to be recording everything they did. Along the way, they found 3 more survivors hiding in a basement: a doctor named Rick, a high school teacher named Paul, and a mechanic named Mike. Tom noticed the hunters didn't seem to use regular vision. They relied heavily on heat tracking and motion detection. When a stray cat ran across their path, the nearest hunter immediately marked and tracked it, giving their group precious seconds to move unseen. The old mine entrance was 2 miles outside town. They made it just as the sun was setting, hearing the occasional silent shot and screams from the town behind them. Inside the mine, Tom finally let himself breathe. The walls were cool, and the depth would help hide them. "What are they?" Emma asked, holding her daughter close. "Hunters," Tom replied, checking his radio for any signals. "They're treating Earth like their private hunting ground, but they made a mistake." He looked at the small group of survivors. "They think we're just prey." The radio crackled, picking up a weak emergency broadcast. Similar attacks were happening worldwide, but there were reports of other survivors. Underground spaces, mines, subway tunnels, cave systems were providing shelter. The hunters excelled at tracking prey in the open, but Earth's complex geography was giving humanity a chance. "We're going to survive this," Tom said, looking at each person in their group. "And then we're going to learn how to fight back. They expect us to run and hide like animals, but we're going to prove them wrong. Humans aren't just prey. We're survivors. And now we're going to become hunters too." Deep in the mine, they heard the distant sound of more pods landing. But for the first time since the sky turned red, they had hope. The hunters had rules, patterns, and technology. But humans had something better: the will to adapt, the power to learn, and the strength to fight back. The hunt had begun, but the ending wasn't written yet. 2 weeks passed in the darkness of the mine. Tom's group had grown to 15 people as more survivors found their way to them. They had turned the old mining office into their command center, using maps on the walls to mark hunter movements they observed. But it was Jack Wilson, a quiet wildlife biologist who joined them 3 days ago, who made the breakthrough they needed. "Look at this," Jack said, pointing to his notebook where he had been tracking hunter behaviors. "They're not random. They follow patterns, just like predators in nature." He showed Tom his careful drawings of the hunter's movements. They have territories. They mark boundaries. They even have specific hunting hours. Tom leaned over the notebook, his military training mixing with Jack's scientific observations. The hunters were indeed following strict patterns. They hunted alone, never in groups. They always marked their prey before killing. And most importantly, they never changed their methods, even when those methods failed. "It's like they're stuck in their ways," Tom said, remembering how Earth's predators would adapt their hunting strategies. "They're advanced, but they're not flexible." The group had set up observation posts in the higher mine tunnels, using old mirrors to watch the hunters without exposing themselves. Mary, a young woman who worked at the local hardware store, had figured out how to rig car batteries to power small lights and radios. They learned more each day. The hunters used 3 main tools, Jack explained to the group during their evening meeting: heat vision to find us, motion tracking to follow us, and some kind of marking system before they kill. But here's the interesting part: they won't shoot anything they haven't marked first. It's like trophy hunting. They need to prove they picked their target properly. Tom remembered how the hunter had marked old Mr. Parker before shooting him. So they're not just killing for survival or territory. This is sport to them. A new survivor, Pete, had joined them yesterday. He had hidden under a dead body to escape the hunters and noticed something important. "Their helmets," he said. "They record everything, like they're making videos of their hunts." This information changed everything. The group began to understand that they weren't facing mindless killers. They were facing sportsmen with rules. Very strict rules. Jack spent hours watching the hunters through their mirror system, taking notes on their behavior. "They're like big game hunters," he explained. "They have specific hunting grounds, they follow certain paths, and they have rules about what makes a kill honorable." The group learned to spot the signs of an approaching hunter. The slight shimmer in the air from their cloaking technology. The way local wildlife would go silent. The faint hum of their scanning equipment. Knowledge was keeping them alive. One day, Tom and Jack watched a hunter track a deer. The alien's movements were perfect, practiced, almost ritual-like. But when the deer suddenly changed direction, the hunter took several seconds to adjust its strategy. Those seconds would matter later. They also discovered that the hunters had trouble tracking them in the mines. The cold, damp walls masked heat signatures, and the complex tunnel system confused their motion tracking. The hunters wouldn't enter the deeper tunnels, perhaps considering it unsporting. "They want a clean hunt," Jack said. "They want to prove they're better than us. But that pride, that's a weakness we can use." The group began testing their theories. They left heat traces to confuse the hunters. They scattered motion triggers in wrong directions. Each small success taught them more about their enemy. Radio contact with other survivor groups revealed similar discoveries. The hunters were following the same patterns everywhere. Their rigid adherence to their hunting protocols was becoming predictable. "We're not just prey," Tom told the group one evening. "We're the first prey that's ever studied them back. And soon, we'll be ready to show them what happens when the prey learns to fight." They had food for a few more weeks, thanks to emergency supplies and careful rationing. They had knowledge about their enemy. And most importantly, they had something the hunters didn't expect. the ability to adapt and learn. In the darkness of the mine, surrounded by maps and notes and determined survivors, Tom and Jack continued their work. The hunters thought they were dealing with simple prey, but humans had spent their entire history learning to survive, adapt, and overcome. And soon, very soon, they would prove just how dangerous underestimating humans could be. The trap was set. After weeks of watching and learning, they were ready to fight back. Tom and Jack had chosen the location carefully, a narrow valley between two mine entrances. They knew the hunters' patrol patterns now, and one would pass through here within the hour. Mike, the mechanic, had rigged the old mining equipment they'd found. Car batteries powered small heating elements, creating false heat signatures. Motion sensors from broken security systems were scattered around, ready to confuse the hunters' tracking systems. "Remember," Tom whispered to the small team hidden in the rocks. "They have to mark their target before they can shoot. That's our window." His hands were steady on the makeshift weapon they'd created, a mining drill powered by compressed air. Not high-tech, but it could punch through metal if it hit right. The morning air was cold when the hunter appeared. It moved with the same confidence they'd seen before, scanning methodically. The first heat signature triggered, and the hunter turned, raising its weapon. The holographic marking system activated, trying to lock on to what it thought was prey. That's when they sprung the trap. More heat signatures activated behind the hunter. The alien spun, its programming demanding it identify and mark each potential target. In those precious seconds of confusion, Tom's team moved. They had covered themselves in cold, wet clay from the mine, masking their heat signatures. They'd practiced moving in the specific way that minimized motion detection. The hunter's systems, designed to track running prey, had trouble spotting their careful movements. The hunter marked one heat signature, then another, growing visibly agitated as its targets disappeared and new ones appeared. Its movements became less fluid, more jerky. Jack had been right. They couldn't adapt quickly to changing situations. Tom gave the signal. Pete and Mary triggered the larger motion sensors, creating a cascade of movement readings. The hunter's head snapped back and forth, its marking system trying to keep up. In its confusion, it didn't notice the true danger until too late. The mining drill hit first, powered by Mike's engineering skills and Tom's aim. It struck the hunter's leg armor, the compressed air giving it enough force to pierce the metal. The hunter stumbled, breaking its practiced stance for the first time. More attacks came from different directions. They had tied rocks to ropes, swinging them to create moving targets while staying hidden. The hunter tried to mark them all, but its system couldn't keep up. For the first time, they heard something like frustration in its clicking sounds. The final blow came from above. Jack had rigged an old mining cart with scrap metal. At Tom's signal, he released it. The hunter looked up at the noise. But its reactions, so perfect when following its protocols, were too slow for this unexpected attack. The cart struck hard, pinning the alien down. The hunter fought, but its movements were panicked now, uncoordinated. It fired its weapon without marking targets, breaking its own rules. Each shot missed, and they could hear its frustrated screeching. This wasn't how its hunt was supposed to go. Tom approached carefully, the mining drill ready. The hunter's helmet had cracked in the fall, revealing strange eyes that showed something they'd never seen in them before. Fear. It tried to reach for a device on its belt, but Tom was faster. The drill struck again, and the hunter went still. They worked quickly, stripping the alien of its weapons and technology. Mike practically danced with joy when he got his hands on the marking system. Mary grabbed the helmet, already thinking about how to understand its scanning technology. But it was Jack who found the most important thing. A small data device showing other hunters' locations. They could now track the hunters themselves. "Look at this," Tom said, pointing to the hunter's broken helmet. "They record everything, right? Well, now they'll have a recording of their prey fighting back. Bet they've never had that happen before." The group moved faster now, grabbing everything useful before more hunters could arrive. But they were different from the scared survivors who had flowed into the mines. They stood straighter, moved with purpose. They had done what no prey species had ever done before. They had killed a hunter. Back in the mine, they studied their prizes. The alien weapons were too coded to their original owners to use, but the scanning and marking technology could be adapted. They were learning, growing stronger, while the hunters stayed the same. They thought hunting humans would be like hunting any other species, Tom said as they examined their trophies. But we're not like other prey. We learn, we adapt, and now we know how to fight back. The first victory was theirs, but more importantly, they had proved something. Humanity wasn't just going to survive this hunt. They were going to win it. News of the dead hunter spread through the surviving human networks like wildfire. Tom's group used the captured alien communication device to reach other survivor camps hidden in mines, subway tunnels, and cave systems across the country. Each day brought messages from more hidden groups, all hungry to learn how to fight back. The old mine became a buzzing center of activity. Mary spent countless hours studying the hunter's helmet, learning how their vision systems worked. She discovered that the aliens relied almost completely on their technology. Their natural eyesight was actually quite poor in Earth's bright sunlight. This was why they wore those complex helmets. They're not built for our world, she explained, showing the others her findings. Their home must be darker, colder. Everything they do here depends on their gear. Mike turned the hunter's marking system into a warning device. He couldn't copy the alien technology, but he could detect when it was being used. Now they had a way to know when hunters were preparing to attack. The device saved 3 families who had been hiding in a nearby cave system, warning them just before a hunter patrol arrived. More survivors reached their mine every week. Each brought new skills and new information. A radio operator from Seattle taught them how to better hide their communications. A chemist from Denver showed them how to make smoke bombs that could confuse the hunter's sensors. Each piece of knowledge made them stronger. Tom organized training sessions, teaching others how they had killed the first hunter. They're not invincible, he told each group. They're just hunters who have never had to worry about their prey fighting back. That makes them predictable. And predictable means beatable. Jack continued his study of hunter behavior, now with help from other scientists who had survived. They mapped hunting territories across the whole region, finding patterns in how the aliens divided their hunting grounds. The hunters never crossed into each other's territories. It seemed to be against their strict rules. It's like they're playing a game, Jack said, marking the territories on their growing map. Each hunter has their own area, their own rules. They compete with each other for kills, but never directly interfere. Their whole society seems built around proving individual skill. Underground tunnels became highways between survivor camps. Old mining rails were cleared for handcarts. Cave systems that hunters had thought empty of life now held thousands of survivors, all learning, all preparing. Humanity was going underground, but not in defeat, in preparation. They learned to use the earth itself as a weapon. The hunters' sensors couldn't penetrate deep rock. Their motion trackers got confused by underground water flows. Their heat vision was useless against the natural warmth of geothermal vents. Every weakness was noted, shared, and used. Food was still a problem, but they adapted. Mushroom farms sprang up in old mine shafts. Underground springs were cleared and filtered for water. Solar panels were hidden in trees to power essential equipment. Bit by bit, they built a new way of living. Children were taught in underground schools, learning both regular subjects and how to survive. They played quiet games, learned hand signals, and grew up understanding the importance of heat signatures and motion control. A new generation was being born, one that would never know what it meant to live without watching the skies. 6 months after killing their first hunter, Tom's original group had trained over 30 other survivor camps in their methods. Each camp went on to train more. Knowledge spread faster than the hunters could track it. While the aliens kept to their rigid hunting patterns, humanity was changing, adapting, becoming something new. We're not just surviving anymore, Tom told a group of new arrivals one evening. "We're building something. Every day we learn more. Every day we get stronger. The hunters don't understand what they've started." Deep in the earth, humanity was growing into something the hunters had never expected, a prey that refused to be hunted. Each failed hunter attack taught them more. Each successful defense made them bolder. The hunters had wanted to treat Earth like their private hunting ground, but they had made a terrible mistake. They had given humanity a reason to unite, to adapt, to fight back. And in the darkness of the mines, caves, and tunnels, a new kind of human society was being born, one that would soon show the hunters exactly how dangerous their chosen prey could be. The hunter never saw the attack coming. It had been tracking what it thought was a wounded human for nearly an hour, following a trail of heat signatures and motion readings through the forest. The trail led exactly where Tom's team wanted it to go. The ground gave way beneath the hunter's feet, dropping it into a carefully hidden pit. Before it could activate its emergency beacon, 3 clay-covered humans emerged from hidden positions. They didn't use fancy weapons or alien technology. They used spears made from mining tools, simple but effective. The hunter died as its ancestors might have, at the hands of what it thought was simple prey. This was the 5th hunter Tom's group had killed in the past month. Each victory taught them more, and each dead hunter sent a message to the others. The humans were no longer running. They were hunting back. Mary had figured out how to use the environment against the aliens. Their sensors get overloaded by extreme heat, she explained to the strike teams. Forest fires, hot springs, even the sun at the right angle. It all blinds them temporarily. This knowledge turned nature itself into a weapon. The resistance used everything they learned. They set traps near geothermal vents, where the heat confused alien sensors. They fought during storms, when rain and lightning disrupted hunter communications. They studied which parts of their world gave them the biggest advantage. Jack's research proved invaluable. The hunters marked their kills to prove their skill, he told the growing resistance. But what happens to a hunter who returns with no kills? What happens when the prey starts killing them instead? They were attacking more than just the hunters' bodies. They were attacking their pride. The aliens began to show signs of frustration. They broke their own rules more often, taking risky shots without proper marking, entering each other's territories. Their perfectly organized hunting patterns became sloppy. They were losing their composure, and with it, their advantage. Tom led a bold raid on a hunter's supply cache, hidden in what used to be a military base. They didn't just take weapons and technology. They took the hunter's recorded trophies, erasing proof of its kills. In the aliens' honor-based society, this was a devastating blow. The resistance spread across continents now. Desert survivors used sandstorms as cover. Arctic groups disappeared into ice caves. Jungle fighters used the dense canopy to their advantage. Each environment offered new ways to turn the hunters' technological superiority against them. One group in the Amazon discovered that the thick jungle humidity caused the hunters' cloaking systems to short out. Another team in the Sahara learned that desert sand could clog the aliens' armor joints. Every ecosystem became a potential weapon. The hunters tried to adapt, but their rigid training and strict protocols worked against them. They had spent too long being the ultimate predators. They didn't know how to handle being prey themselves. "Watch how they move now," Tom told his teams. "See how they check behind them. See how they hesitate before entering open spaces. They're starting to feel what fear is like. They're starting to understand what being hunted feels like." Mary kept improving their defenses. She found ways to mask entire settlements from alien scans, using natural cave formations and clever engineering. The underground network grew stronger each day, while the hunters' territory slowly shrank. The resistance intercepted alien communications, learning that some hunters were requesting to leave Earth. Their perfect hunting ground had become a nightmare, where every shadow might hide a human waiting to strike. Their recordings now showed failure after failure. "They're not used to adapting," Jack said, watching through binoculars as a hunter cautiously searched an empty valley. All their technology, all their training, it's made them inflexible. But humans, adapting is what we do best. The turning point came when they started recording their own hunts. Using salvaged hunter helmets, they documented their victories. Each successful ambush, each killed hunter, each rescued group of survivors was proof that humanity wasn't just surviving. They were winning. Deep in the command center of their mind, Tom looked at the map showing hunter territories. More areas were marked in green now, zones where humans had taken back control. The hunters were learning a lesson that every apex predator on Earth had learned long ago. When survival is on the line, prey can become the deadliest predators of all. The mothership hung in orbit like a dark star, visible through the broken clouds. Tom stood with his team on a mountain ridge, watching as their plan began to unfold. After months of preparation, they were ready for their biggest hunt yet. The supply ship comes down every 30 days, Mary said, checking the data on her modified hunter helmet display. They've gotten sloppy since we started fighting back. Their landing zones are predictable now. She had spent weeks tracking the ship's patterns, finding the weakness in their routine. The Resistance now operated globally, sharing information through a network of captured alien communication devices. Reports came in from every continent. The hunters were losing ground everywhere. Their perfect hunting vacation had turned into a nightmare, and now humans were about to make it worse. Mike had modified the hunters' own marking technology to work for human targets. They're so focused on their fancy tech, he said, adjusting the targeting system. They never thought we'd turn it against them. The device hummed softly, ready to mark the supply ship when it landed. The plan was bold, maybe even crazy, but that's what made it human. The hunters couldn't imagine their prey would dare attack a ship. Their arrogance had become their biggest weakness. They still fought like hunters, not like warriors. The supply ship broke through the clouds right on schedule. Its landing was automatic, programmed, predictable. Everything the hunters did was predictable now. They had lost their ability to improvise, stuck in their rigid protocols while humans grew more creative every day. Jack's research had revealed something crucial about hunter society. They record everything because rank is based on successful hunts. He explained one last time. Without proof of kills, they lose status. Without status, they lose everything. Today, they would use that knowledge. The ship touched down in the mountain clearing. Its ramp lowered, and hunters emerged carrying fresh supplies for their forces on Earth. They moved with the same practiced precision that had once made them terrifying. Now it just made them targets. Tom gave the signal. Hidden resistance fighters triggered heat flares and motion decoys, copied from hunter technology, but modified by human ingenuity. The aliens responded exactly as expected, spreading out to investigate according to their protocols. The trap was sprung. Teams of clay-covered humans emerged from hidden positions, using the hunters' own marking technology against them. The aliens froze in confusion. Their programming didn't account for prey that could mark them back. The battle was swift and decisive. Humans didn't fight fair. They never had. They used numbers, terrain, and surprise, everything the hunters considered unsporting. Mining tools turned weapons found gaps in alien armor. Modified hunter tech disrupted their communications. Tom led the charge into the supply ship itself. The interior was designed for efficiency, not defense. The hunters had never expected to fight inside their own vessels. Their weapons were made for long-range hunting, not close combat in narrow corridors. Mary worked quickly at the ship's control panel, using knowledge gained from months of studying hunter technology. The aliens had built everything around their hunting protocols. Even their security systems were designed to track prey, not stop determined attackers. "Got it," she shouted as the ship's systems came under her control. The hunters had made another mistake. They had never changed their command codes, never thinking prey would be smart enough to learn them. Outside, the last hunter fell. The Resistance had taken the ship with minimal losses, using every trick and technique they had learned. Human adaptability had overcome alien technology. The real prize wasn't the ship itself, but its data core. It contained recordings of every hunt on Earth, proof of hunter victories and defeats. Jack quickly began downloading it all. They would show these recordings to every hunter ship in orbit. "Send the message," Tom ordered. Mary transmitted the battle recording to the mothership, along with a simple message. Earth was no longer a hunting ground. Humanity was no longer prey. Through the captured ship's communications, they heard the hunters' response. Confusion, anger, disbelief. Their perfect social order was crumbling. Some wanted to flee, others to fight, but none knew how to handle prey that had become predators. In the ship's hold, they found something unexpected. Records of other worlds the hunters had visited. Other species they had treated as game. But none of those species had fought back like humans. None had turned the hunt around. Tom looked at his team of survivors turned warriors. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to show the hunters, and any other aliens watching, that humanity was different. Earth wasn't just another hunting ground. It was home to a species that refused to be prey. The mothership's landing changed everything. It descended from orbit like a metal mountain, touching down in the Nevada desert. Tom watched from a hidden command center, surrounded by screens showing feeds from captured hunter helmets. This was humanity's moment of truth. 3 months had passed since they captured the supply ship. 3 months of the hunters trying and failing to regain control. Their perfect hunting system had fallen apart as more ships were captured, more hunters killed, more of their technology turned against them. "They're coming out," Mary said, monitoring the mothership's massive entry ramp. "But something's different. Look at how they're walking." The hunters emerged without weapons, their helmets retracted, showing their alien faces to Earth's air for the first time. Jack studied their behavior through high-powered scopes. "This isn't a hunting party," he said. "Their posture, their formation, this is a diplomatic group." After years of studying hunter behavior, he could read their intentions clearly now. The resistance had prepared for this moment. Representatives from survivor groups worldwide had gathered, ready to meet the hunters not as prey, but as equals. Tom led the human delegation, walking out into the desert sun with his head held high. The hunter leader stepped forward. Its armor was different from the others, decorated with marks that they now knew represented successful hunts. But there was something new in its stance, respect, maybe even fear. Through their captured translation technology, the hunter spoke. "You were supposed to be prey," it said, its alien voice filled with confusion. "Like all the others. Like the 100 worlds before. But you learned to hunt us instead." Tom's response was calm but firm. "We were never just prey. Humans don't accept being hunted. We adapt, we learn, we fight back. Your mistake was thinking we would behave like the other species you've hunted." The hunter leader revealed something shocking. In 10,000 years of hunting across the galaxy, no species had ever fought back successfully. The hunters had culled countless civilizations, treating the universe as their private hunting ground. Earth was the first planet where they had become the hunted. "Show them," Tom commanded. Mary activated the displays they had set up, playing recordings from their victories. Hunters falling into human traps. Hunters being marked by their own technology. Hunters learning what it meant to be prey. The alien leader watched in silence. Its species had built their entire society around proving superiority through hunting. Now that foundation was crumbling. They had found prey that refused to be prey, and it had broken their worldview. "Your hunting days are over," Tom declared. "Not just on Earth, but everywhere. We've sent messages to every world you've hunted. We're sharing our knowledge, our techniques, our technology. You're not the only hunters in the galaxy anymore." The revelation hit the hunters hard. Their civilization had never faced this situation. They had no protocols, no rules for dealing with prey that could defeat them. Their rigid society was facing a change it had never prepared for. Through the captured data cores, humanity had learned the locations of other hunted worlds. The resistance was already planning to reach out, to teach other species how to fight back. The hunters' reign of terror across the galaxy was ending. "You have two choices," Tom continued. "Leave Earth and never return, abandoning your hunting practices forever, or face extinction. We've proven we can beat you. We've proven we can take your ships. Next time, we'll take your homeworld." The hunter leader's response surprised them all. It removed its ceremonial armor, placing it on the ground, a gesture of submission that no hunter had made in their species' history. "We choose to learn," it said. "You have proven yourselves worthy not of being prey, but of being teachers." That day marked the end of the hunt and the beginning of something new. Humanity had not just survived, they had changed the galaxy forever. The hunters would disband their hunting fleets, transforming their society into something less predatory. In the years that followed, Earth became a symbol of resistance across the galaxy. Other species sought human guidance, learning to stand up against any who would treat them as prey. The hunters had wanted to prove their superiority through the hunt, but instead they had awakened something much more powerful, the universal desire to be free. Tom looked up at the stars that night, thinking about how far they had come. From hiding in mines to commanding the respect of their former hunters, humanity had proven something not just to the aliens, but to themselves. There was no force in the universe more powerful than the will to survive, adapt, and overcome.